This story is generated and narrated by AI. If you notice any glitches in the voice, feel free to leave a comment. Your feedback helps improve future videos. I wasn't supposed to be in apartment 6B, but the door was open, and she was already waiting. I moved into the apartment on a Tuesday, one of those gray, indecisive days that felt like the sky hadn't woken up yet. No sun, no rain, just clouds sitting heavy above the city like a warning no one could read. The building was 5 stories tall, officially, but my new place was on the 6th floor. They called it the Neuer building, a crumbling brick structure squeezed between a dry cleaner and an abandoned bookstore, the kind of place that looked like it used to be something grand, maybe a hotel back in the 1920s, but had since wilted with time. The elevator didn't have a button for the 6th floor, but Mr. Delaney, the landlord, told me to use the stairs once I got to 5. "You'll find it just fine," he said, keys jangling in his palm like nervous thoughts. His voice was hoarse, like he hadn't spoken to anyone properly in weeks. I remember his eyes wouldn't meet mine when he handed over the key. Apartment 6A, it felt wrong in my hand. The key, cold, slightly curved as though someone had bent it in their sleep. I didn't ask questions. I was broke, tired, and badly needed a place after everything that happened in Chicago. I told myself this was just another cheap rental in another bad part of town, nothing to read into. But the moment I stepped into the building, I knew something was off. The lobby floor creaked under my boots. The air was thick with dust and something else, like wet concrete or scorched metal. There was no front desk, just a broken bell on a counter stained with cigarette burns. A plastic plant drooped sideways in a pot filled with dead flies. The elevator groaned as it rose, not in a mechanical way, but almost like it resisted climbing. When the doors opened on the 5th floor, I found the stairwell tucked between 2 fire extinguishers, a thin metal door slightly ajar. The stairs beyond were steep and dark, with no window, no sign. And yet, at the top, there it was, a narrow hallway, barely wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side. 3 doors. 6A, 6B, 6C. Mine was the first. I inserted the key. The lock clicked too easily, like it wanted me in. The apartment smelled like old paper, like someone had left books open for years, and time had curled the pages in secret. It was small, just one main room with a kitchenette, a bathroom, and a single window overlooking the alley behind the building, but it was furnished, strangely furnished. A rocking chair in the corner, a mirror nailed to the back of the front door, and a single picture on the wall, a faded black and white photo of the building itself, decades ago, with lights on in every window except one. You already know which one. The first night, I barely slept. Not because of anything dramatic, just little things, faint creaks, a tapping sound in the walls, and that humming. Soft, barely audible, like someone was singing from far below the floorboards. I told myself it was pipes. Old buildings made weird noises, right? The next morning, I met Manny, the maintenance guy. He was fixing something on the 3rd floor, muttering under his breath while replacing a section of cracked wall tile. I introduced myself, told him I just moved into 6A. His hand froze mid-turn of the screwdriver. He didn't look up. "Which one did you say?" he asked quietly. "6A, top floor," I repeated. This time, he looked at me. His face was pale, but his eyes, they were sharp, like he was doing math in his head. "You hear anything strange up there yet?" he asked. I forced a laugh. "Just old pipes, I guess, and maybe someone humming in the next unit." Manny stood slowly, wiped his hands on a rag. "You leave that door alone." "What door?" 6B, he muttered, walking past me without another word. That night, the humming was louder. It didn't sound distant anymore. It sounded like it was coming from the wall I shared with 6B. I pressed my ear to it. The melody was simple, repetitive, a child's song maybe, but slower, stretched out. Then, a voice whispered, "Are you listening?" I stumbled back. Silence. I told myself I imagined it. Stress, insomnia, bad acoustics. But I started noticing other things the next day. My toothbrush moved, just slightly. My keys were in the wrong pocket. My bedroom light flickered when I wasn't looking at it. And worst of all, there were smudges on the mirror, long, pale smudges, like someone had placed their hand flat against the glass and slowly dragged it downward. I lived alone. I hadn't touched the mirror. On the third night, I dreamed of the hallway, only this time, the hall didn't end at 6C. It kept going. And the girl was there, standing in front of 6B, her back to me, her hair down to her waist, her skin almost blue in the hallway light. She turned her head just slightly and whispered without moving her lips, "You're not supposed to be here." I woke up drenched in sweat. The door to my apartment was open. I didn't sleep after that. I sat on the edge of the bed with the lights on, staring at the front door like it might move again. But it didn't, and by sunrise, I started to convince myself it had just been a draft, or maybe I forgot to latch it, maybe the lock was loose. But I didn't believe that. So I slid a chair under the knob, just in case. The next day, I confronted Mr. Delaney. He was in the basement, sorting through a box of yellowed envelopes and cracked electrical panels. The light bulb above him flickered like it had one last breath to give. "I need to ask you about apartment 6B, I said. He didn't look up. "I told you it's vacant," he muttered. "Then why do I hear someone in there at night?" That made him pause. He slowly raised his head. His eyes were bloodshot, and not from drink, from something deeper, exhaustion mixed with fear, like someone who knew a story too well and hated the ending. "Look," he began. "Sometimes sounds bounce. Old buildings do that. It's not unusual. Don't go thinking crazy things." "I'm not thinking anything," I said. "I just want to know if it's safe." His jaw twitched, then he nodded toward the stairs. "It's safe enough if you mind your own business," he said. I went back upstairs, but that night, I couldn't ignore the humming anymore. It started at 2:11 a.m. I remember because I checked the clock twice. Same tune, same voice. Only now, it wasn't just humming. There were words beneath it, soft and slow. "She's not asleep. She's just alone, behind the door, inside the stone." I stared at the wall, my wall, the one I shared with 6B. And that's when I saw it. A shadow moving just under the gap of my front door. Not the light kind that comes from passing feet or flickering bulbs. This one was still, and it waited. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The shadow lingered. Then slowly, very slowly, it disappeared. The next morning, I found something outside my door. A single photograph, black and white, curled at the edges. It showed a girl standing in the hallway, back facing the camera, in front of apartment 6B. It was the same girl from my dream. Long hair, thin frame, no shoes, and scrawled on the back in smeared ink were 5 words. Don't let her see you. I took the photo downstairs, but when I showed it to Delaney, he froze. He didn't take it from my hand. He didn't speak, just stared at it like he'd seen a ghost crawl out of the paper. Then, without looking at me, he whispered, "That door was never supposed to open." I asked him what he meant, but he walked away, right out of the office, and didn't come back that day. I did some digging that afternoon, went to the local records office, asked about the Neuer building. Most of the files were useless, water-damaged, incomplete. But I found an old police report from 1998. Apartment 6B, missing tenant, a girl named Angela Kane. 19 years old, student, quiet, disappeared one night without a trace, no forced entry, no signs of struggle. Only thing left in her room was a mirror with a crack running across it like a scar. I kept reading, witness statements, maintenance reports. All of them hinted at strange noises, complaints from neighbors, smells, shadows, humming. The apartment was sealed after her disappearance, and according to one faded note at the bottom, Unit 6B recommended for permanent closure. But it wasn't closed now. That night, something changed. The humming didn't start at 2:11 a.m. It started before I went to bed. Louder, closer, like it was right beside my pillow. I turned on every light, paced the apartment, opened every cabinet. And then I heard it. 3 knocks. Not on my door. On the wall. From inside 6B. Knock, knock, knock. Then silence. Then a voice. You opened it. Now she knows. She's looking for you. She wants you close. The air turned cold. The kind of cold that isn't about temperature, but about presence. The cold of a place that forgot what life feels like. My breath fogged the mirror on the door, and there, written in the fog, as if a finger traced it from the other side. Let me in. I didn't touch the doorknob that night. I backed into the corner of the room, rocking chair creaking beside me, and waited. For what? I didn't know. Only that something was behind that door, and it knew I was listening. I didn't leave my apartment the next day, didn't go to work, didn't open the blinds, didn't answer my phone. I just sat there, in that narrow living room, counting the noises in the walls. Tap, scrape, drag. Sometimes it sounded like something crawling through the vents, sometimes like fingernails along the floorboards. But always from the direction of 6B. I called the police once. They came up, knocked on 6B's door, shouted into the keyhole. But they didn't go in. When I asked why, one of the officers just shrugged. No reports of a current tenant. No reason to force it. Maybe you're hearing the pipes. Pipes don't whisper in rhyme. That night, I barricaded my door with furniture, chairs, coffee table, even the little bookshelf I never bothered to organize. I didn't expect it to stop anything, but it gave me something to do. And then, just past midnight, I saw the light. A thin line of it, leaking from the crack beneath the wall that connected me to 6B. I don't know how to explain it. There was no window there, no socket, no switch. But the wall was glowing, a pale, flickering blue. Like TV static, but colder. And behind that wall, the humming started again. She comes at night, when no one sees. She knocks 3 times, then she's the key. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a flashlight, a heavy wrench from the kitchen drawer, and walked out into the hall. Apartment 6B's door looked exactly the same as it had the day I moved in. Peeling paint, rusted handle, number nearly worn away. But this time, the doorknob turned. It shouldn't have. It never should have. But it did. And the door creaked open an inch, then 2. No sound came from inside. Just that still, stale air, the kind you find in basements or coffins. I pushed the door open with the wrench and stepped inside. The apartment was almost a mirror of mine, but not quite. The walls were yellowed, stained. There were watermarks on the ceiling, patches of rot where the wallpaper had peeled like old skin. No furniture, no lights, just a mirror. Standing tall in the center of the living room. An old, freestanding piece, the kind with clawed feet and a tilted oval frame. It was cracked right down the center, just like the one in the police report. And written across it, in something that looked too dark to be ink, "Do not turn around." I took a step forward, and the mirror fogged up. Like breath, but I wasn't breathing. And then, a shape appeared behind me in the reflection. Long hair, bare feet, arms hanging limp at her sides. She didn't move, but I felt her watching. I spun around. Nothing. Just the rotting room and a cold draft that smelled like mildew and copper. I turned back to the mirror. Now, my reflection was gone. The glass was empty. Not broken, not fogged. Just empty. Like it didn't recognize me. Suddenly the door behind me slammed shut. And I heard footsteps. Fast, light, like someone circling the walls. I gripped the wrench, called out, "Who's there?" No answer. Only the humming. This time, right next to my ear. She's not asleep. She's just behind. The ones who knock don't leave in time. The mirror flickered. And for just a second, I saw something in it. Not me, not her, but an entire hallway filled with dozens of doors, each marked 6B. Each slightly open. And something waiting inside every one. I don't remember leaving the apartment. One second, I was staring into that cracked mirror. The next, I was lying in my own bed, sweating, shaking. The wrench was still in my hand, but it was covered in something sticky, something dark. The time on the microwave read 3:06 a.m. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. When the sun rose, I finally worked up the nerve to check the hallway again. The door to apartment 6B was closed, just as I'd found it the first day. No sign of entry, no footprints, no mirror. I walked downstairs and banged on the landlord's door. He opened it half-dressed, holding a cup of instant coffee and looking like he hadn't slept in a week. "Something wrong upstairs again," he grumbled. "I need to know who lived in 6B before me." He frowned. "Before you? What do you mean? You're in 6A. 6B has been empty for a couple of years now." He hesitated. "Well, it was rented once, but the girl disappeared. No one's touched the place since. Housing board marked it pending investigation. You shouldn't even have access to it." I told him the door opened on its own, that I'd been inside. He just stared at me for a moment, then shook his head. "I'll have someone nail it shut. Don't go poking around again. You don't want to end up like her." I asked him her name. He didn't answer. That day, I went to the library downtown, found the archives, started searching. It didn't take long. 2019, missing persons report name, Rachel Hargrove, age 24, last seen, apartment 6B, Laurel Avenue complex note, disappeared after reporting strange disturbances to landlord, case unresolved. Attached was a grainy photo, black hair, faint freckles, sad smile. I'd seen that face in the mirror. Over the next few days, I did everything I could to distance myself from 6B. I pushed my furniture against the shared wall. I left music playing to drown out the humming. I even tried sleeping with the lights on. But it didn't help. The whispering came back, clearer this time. Who moved in, without a name? Who opened doors and joined the game? The light from the wall returned too, except now it came through the floorboards, under the sink, inside the closet. The apartment itself was changing. Warping around the thing next door. I made plans to leave. I packed what I could into a duffel bag, called a friend across town, booked a bus. But the night before I was supposed to go, something woke me up. A sound I'd heard before. 3 knocks. But not from the wall. From inside my apartment. I sat up. The room was dark, too dark, like the shadows were swallowing the light before it reached the corners. Then I saw it, a figure, standing just past the doorway to the kitchen. Pale legs, wet hair, and in her hand, a key. I couldn't move. My body refused to listen. She tilted her head, and I felt something shift in the air. Like gravity had turned sideways. She gave you the room, she gave you the name. Now all that's left is to play the same. Suddenly, I understood. I was never meant to be in 6A. There was no 6A. The mailbox, the lease, even the key, they all said 6B. The landlord hadn't lied. Not really. He just assumed I was in the next available. But she'd chosen me. She'd let me in. I reached for the light switch. Nothing. The air turned sharp, like breathing in ice. She moved closer, slow, silent, her bare feet leaving no prints, but the floor groaned beneath her all the same. "Don't leave yet," she whispered. "I need a mirror." My phone buzzed in my pocket, a message from an unknown number. "Look behind you." I did. There was no wall anymore, only an open hallway, identical doors lining both sides, each one marked 6B. I took a step backward, then another. The hallway didn't end. The lights flickered. And behind each door, I saw someone else staring out, eyes wide, mouths open, trapped. I ran. I don't remember how long. The hallway twisted, warped, looped back on itself. But eventually, I stumbled through one last door and woke up in my bed. Sunlight, normal air, the mirror intact. But the door to 6B was gone. No hinges, no frame, just smooth, uninterrupted wall. I went downstairs, told the landlord I was leaving. He looked confused. "There's no tenant in 6A. 6BS condemned. Always has been." I left the building that day and never came back. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear the humming. She picks the ones who see the cracks. She opens doors, but no one backs. You took her key. You played her part. Now apartment 6B is inside your heart. If you've ever felt like a room remembered someone who lived there before you, you're not alone. What would you do if the door next to you opened by itself? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more slow burn #urban horror stories whispered from the shadows.